Hey, hello, thanks for joining me. In this multi-part build, I'm going to be doing an exterior door. You can see the door I'm going to replace here is about 80 years old and looks crummy. It's also not terribly stable. So what I'm starting with is treated 6x6 lumber. This is what I'm building the frame with. So I'm going to build the door within the frame. I'm then going to transport it down to the site to put it in place. So quickly ripping this out, just knocking out the frame, and you'll see me put this together in just a moment. So to assemble the frame here, I'm using 90-degree angle blocks that I built with clamp spaces in them. So just clamp it together nice and square, pre-drilling each of the holes, and then I am screwing these together with 3-inch deck screws. So I'm going to be putting on both a top and a bottom to this frame and build the door inside and transport it, but the bottom is actually going to be removed at the time when it's ready to be installed. What I'm doing now is just putting some support braces on the bottom, putting these guys on just with a couple of screws. These are temporary to allow me to stand the frame up and then work within that frame in a vertical position in the shop as I set and fit the door and put on all the hinges and hardware, etc. So now I'm starting on the door frame itself. So I'm just using deck boards, cedar deck boards from the big box store, which I laminated together and planed down to the appropriate thickness. So I'm cutting 5 rails and then 2 full length, or rather height, stiles to put this door together. We'll see me working on the joinery a little bit later, but I already know the precise dimensions here, so I set up stock blocks and I'm just knocking these out. This is maybe one of the most important parts of this project, is getting this layout set up. So I'm just doing it on the floor. If I had a big enough bench, I'd rather do it up at waist height, make it a little bit easier on myself, climbing up and down, getting up and down off of the floor. But setting it up, I'm going to get the spacing adjusted appropriately. And then for this project, I'm going to be using domino joinery to assemble it. So I'm going to have to mark it out for where I'm going to put the dominoes. You could do this a number of different ways. You could certainly use mortise and tenons. My expectation is hope is that this door is going to last another 80 years. So I'm going to build this thing super sturdy and have it last. So here I'm numbering each one of the parts, just so I know their relative positions, as I'm going to be taking them apart, putting them back together multiple times, moving the pieces around the shop. This way I can make sure, as I'm fitting each individual joint, that I have the correct pieces going together with one another. My next task here is laying out for the dominoes. I'm using 10 millimeter by 100 millimeter dominoes, and I've decided to use 3 of those giant dominoes for each one of these joints. I think 2 likely would have been strong, but I'd always rather err on the side of over-engineering rather than under. So I'm just sort of rough marking their positions for the 3 each here, and then I'm going to go back momentarily with a square and get those lined up perfectly. So these are the marks I'm going to reference when I actually cut the dominoes, so I want to make sure they're nice and clear, straight, crisp, and that they line up with one another on these mating pieces. I'm going to be cutting these on the tight setting, so these have to be aligned nicely. So this will wrap it up for part 1. Appreciate you watching and hope you come back and enjoy the rest.